For thousands of years, humans looked at the moon and wondered what lived beyond the silent sky. Every night, the moon hung like a bright lamp over villages, cities, deserts, and oceans. Children asked their parents, "What is that glowing circle?" Travelers followed it during long journeys. Poets wrote about its beauty, but nobody knew the truth. The moon was close enough to see, yet impossible to reach. Scientists believed it was full of dust, rocks, and darkness. There was no air, no water, and no sound. A place where even a small mistake could mean instant death. Still, humans were not afraid. Curiosity lived in their hearts like fire. In the early 1960s, when rockets failed again and again, and computers were weak like toys, a surprising decision changed history. America announced, "We will send humans to the moon." The world was shocked. Many people laughed. Some said it was a foolish dream. Others called it a political trick. Even inside America, many believed it was impossible. The distance may look small in the sky, but the truth was terrifying. 384,000 kilometers of empty space. If a spacecraft went the wrong way, there was no rescue. No one could save the astronauts. Still, NASA continued. Engineers worked day and night. They studied old designs, tested metal pieces, and built rockets that exploded on test stands again and again. Every failure created fear. A small mistake in wiring caused fires. A fuel problem caused an engine blast. Lives were lost. Money ran out. Some politicians demanded the project be shut down. But the mission did not stop. The narrator describes this time as a battle, not between countries, but between humans and the unknown. Humanity wanted to know if they could cross the invisible wall of space. In secret rooms, engineers designed a giant rocket called Saturn V. It was taller than a 36-floor building. It shook the ground like an earthquake when it fired. Some scientists called it the most dangerous machine ever built. Others called it humanity's only hope. Finally, the day came when NASA selected 3 men who would risk everything. They knew there was a big chance they would never return, but they accepted the mission without fear. The world held its breath. A journey no human had ever taken was about to begin, a journey from Earth to the moon, and nothing would ever be the same again. While the world talked about the moon mission with excitement, the truth inside NASA was very different. The real danger was not the moon. The real danger was a rocket that would take humans there. This rocket was named Saturn V, a giant white tower standing silently on the launch pad. People admired it from far away, but the engineers who worked on it knew a terrible fact. One wrong bolt, one wrong wire, one wrong drop of fuel, and everything would explode. Inside NASA's testing rooms, Saturn V was treated like a wild animal. It had so much power that even a small engine test shook nearby buildings. Some workers said they could feel the vibrations in their teeth. The narrator explains how the rocket was divided into 3 stages. The first stage was a monster, 5 engines burning fuel faster than a waterfall. The second stage lifted the rocket above the sky. The third stage pushed the astronauts toward the moon. If any one stage failed, the astronauts would never come back. NASA's teams were made of thousands of people, young engineers, scientists, technicians, mathematicians. Many were in their early 20s. Some had no experience in space, but they worked like their lives depended on it. Suspense rises when a test of the first stage goes wrong. A tiny leak turns into a fireball. The flame grows so fast that engineers run for their lives. The entire room fills with smoke. Alarms scream. For a moment, it looks like the rocket is lost forever. But the fire dies just in time. The engineers return the next day. No one quits. No one steps back. They check every pipe, every screw, every sense again. This part shows the human effort behind the mission, not heroes in spacesuits, but heroes wearing dusty uniforms in noisy rooms. One engineer named Tom worked 18 hours a day. His hands were always covered in grease. His wife joked that he loved the rocket more than her. But Tom knew one truth. If this rocket is not perfect, 3 men will die. NASA held meetings every night. People argued. People cried. People disagreed. But slowly, the rocket became stronger. It started to behave like a controlled creature, not a wild beast. Finally, after years of fear, sweat, and small victories, Saturn V stood ready, silent, steady, waiting for the day when 3 humans would climb inside it and trust their lives to every nut and bolt. While NASA fought difficult problems on the ground, another silent battle was happening somewhere else, inside the hearts of the 3 astronauts chosen for the moon mission. The world saw them as heroes, but they were human, and they were afraid. Neil Armstrong. He was calm, quiet, and always thinking. People called him the man who never shows fear. But at night, Neil often sat alone in his room, staring at the mission folder. He knew the truth. One small mistake in space meant no return. He wrote a letter for his wife, just in case. He folded it slowly, like he didn't want to accept the reality. Buzz Aldrin. Buzz was confident, strong, and always smiling. But he felt pressure like no one else. He wanted to prove himself, to show that humans could go beyond limits. Sometimes he trained until his hands shook. Sometimes he pushed machines until alarms rang. He would laugh it off, but his eyes showed the stress he carried. Michael Collins. People often forget him. He was the astronaut who would stay alone in the spacecraft orbiting around the moon, the loneliest job in history. Collins trained day and night, learning how to fix hundreds of things alone. No backup, no partner. If something broke, he had to solve it or die. Deep inside, he feared one thing. What if Neil and Buzz never returned from the surface? What if he returns to Earth alone? This fear lived with him every day. Medium white star, the training that broke their bodies. NASA did not want brave men. They wanted perfect men. So training was cruel. The astronauts were placed inside a spinning machine that rotated so fast that their vision turned white. Sometimes they couldn't breathe properly. Sometimes they almost fainted. But no one stopped. They practiced walking in a room filled with wires, rocks, and uneven ground, a fake moon surface. They fell, they slipped, they got injured, but they returned the next day. They learned how to repair computers, how to control rockets manually, how to stay calm in fire, in vacuum, in darkness. Suspense rises when a test goes wrong. During a simulation landing, the machine suddenly loses control and flips. It crashes to the ground with Armstrong still inside. Smoke fills the room. Everyone runs toward the wreck. For a moment, people think Armstrong is gone. But he jumps out at the last second, rolling on the floor, escaping death by inches. NASA realizes the mission is possible, but every second will be dangerous. The morning of July 16th, 1969, did not feel normal. Even the sky looked different, brighter, heavier, as if it knew something historic was about to happen. People from all over America camped near the launch site. Some brought binoculars. Some brought flags. Some stood silently, unable to speak. No one wanted to miss the moment humans would try to leave Earth. Inside the astronaut building, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins sat quietly while technicians helped them into their suits. Those suits were like small spaceships themselves, heavy, tight, filled with wires, tubes, and oxygen lines. Once the helmet locked, the world outside became a silent movie. Neil kept staring at the floor, deep in thought. Buzz tried to smile but failed. Collins closed his eyes for a moment to calm his heartbeat. When they stood up to walk out, everyone in the room froze. It wasn't fear, it was respect. These 3 men were walking toward a machine that could destroy them in seconds. As they walked through the long white tunnel to the rocket, reporters quietly took photos. No one dared to speak loudly. Every step echoed like a drum of destiny. Medium white star, the giant waiting for them. Saturn V stood outside like a frozen monster, tall, bright, silent. The closer they got, the smaller they looked. The rocket was so huge that even clouds looked low next to it. The narrator explains, this rocket held 2.5 million parts. If one part failed, everything failed. The astronauts climbed the long elevator to the top. The wind pushed against their suits, and the ocean waves could be heard far away. It almost felt like the whole world was watching them, even nature. When they reached the capsule, they crawled inside one by one. The space was small, no windows to move through, no room to stand. Just tight seats, switches, and silence. Technicians closed the hatch. A loud clank echoed, the sound of no return. Medium white star countdown of fear. Now the world watched live. Millions on TV. Thousands at the beach. Scientists holding their breath. Families praying. The speaker began. 10, 9, 8. The ground shook. Birds flew away. The rocket growled like thunder trapped in metal. 5, 4. Neil had his hand on the controls. Buzz stared straight ahead. Collins whispered something only he heard. 3, 2, 1. Flames exploded from the bottom of the rocket, a fire so bright it looked like a second sun. Then, liftoff! The rocket slowly rose into the sky, shaking everything around it. But inside Mission Control, screens flickered. A small engine sensor showed danger. If it got worse, the rocket would explode in the first minute. Everyone stared at the screen, unable to blink. The world saw a beautiful launch. NASA saw a countdown to possible disaster. When the rocket finally escaped Earth's atmosphere, something strange happened. Something no one had warned the astronauts about. The sound disappeared. Completely. Inside the spacecraft, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins suddenly felt the world go silent. No wind. No engine noise. Not even the soft hum of air. It was like someone had turned off the universe. The narrator explains, space is not empty. It is silent. Armstrong looked outside through the small window. Below him, Earth was glowing, blue, white, peaceful. The continents looked like paint on a giant spinning ball. Storms floated like soft cotton. From here, the world had no borders, no fighting, no war. Buzz whispered, "It looks alive." In front of them, the moon appeared small but bright, like a lamp in a black room. Every second, it grew larger. Every second, the spacecraft moved deeper into a place where no human had ever traveled before. Medium white star, the first problem in deep space. Halfway to the moon, the astronauts heard a sharp beep, beep, beep. A red light flashed on the control panel. Collins checked the screen. Oxygen tank pressure dropping. This was dangerous. If the pressure kept falling, they would not have enough air to breathe the rest of the journey. NASA heard the alarm too, but the delay in communication meant they couldn't respond immediately. Inside the spacecraft, the air felt thicker. Buzz opened panels, searching for leaks. Armstrong stayed calm, watching every number carefully. Collins checked valves again and again. Finally, they found the problem. A small piece of ice had blocked a valve. Collins tapped the valve gently with a metal tool, a risky move. The ice broke. The pressure rose back to normal. Everyone exhaled together. The danger passed, but the fear stayed. Medium white star between light and darkness. As they approached the moon, the sunlight changed. It became sharper, brighter, almost metallic. Anything in the light looked white and glowing. Anything in the shadow became black like ink. Buzz said, "It feels like two different worlds." The moon's craters became clear, giant holes, sharp rocks, endless dust. Collins looked at them carefully. If the landing went wrong, even a small rock could destroy the lander. NASA warned them, prepare for the most difficult part. Armstrong switched the controls into landing mode. Buzz checked landing legs. Collins prepared to separate the modules. The narrator built suspense. They were only hours away from attempting something no human had ever done, touch another world. The silent road was ending. The real danger was about to begin. The final hour before landing felt unreal. Armstrong and Aldrin moved into the small lunar module called Eagle. Collins stayed alone in the command module, becoming the most isolated human in history. No radio, no human nearby, just darkness and orbit. The narrator explains, if anything happened to the Eagle, Collins could not save them. He would return to Earth alone. Medium white star, the descent begins. Eagle, you are go for landing. With those words, Armstrong started the engine that would take them downward. The lunar dust began to rise like smoke, covering the windows. Buzz read out numbers quickly. Altitude 7,000 feet. Speed high. Fuel at 60%. At first, everything looked fine. Then something went horribly wrong. The computer alarm began to scream. 1202. 1202. 1202. Buzz froze. Armstrong looked at the screen. NASA controllers panicked. No one had seen this alarm in real flight. If it meant a system failure, the lander would crash. One engineer in mission control shouted, "Go! It's a computer overload." Ignore the alarm. The backup will save them. This was Margaret Hamilton's code, the code no one believed was needed. Armstrong trusted the words. He continued, "Medium white star, the surface reveals a deadly truth." As Eagle dropped lower, the surface became clear and terrifying. The place the computer chose was full of giant rocks, deep craters, and dangerous slopes. If they landed here, the lander would flip and explode. Buzz shouted, "We can't land here." Armstrong did something no one expected. He switched the lander to manual control. Now he was flying the Eagle like a helicopter in a sandstorm, but with almost no fuel. NASA went silent. Only Armstrong's breathing filled the capsule. Medium white star, the fuel drops. Fuel, 30 seconds. If they did not land in the next half minute, they would crash and die. Armstrong searched through the dust for a flat spot. The ground came closer. Buzz read the numbers faster and faster. 20 seconds. The lander drifted sideways. Dust exploded from the engines. Rocks passed beneath them like knives. 15 seconds. Armstrong found a small patch, smooth and empty. He lowered the lander. 10 seconds. The engine shook violently. 5 seconds. And then, thump, the lander touched the surface. Buzz looked at Armstrong in shock. Armstrong calmly said the words that changed history. "Houston, the Eagle has landed." Mission Control erupted in cheers. Some engineers cried. Some fell to the floor in relief. The world celebrated. But inside the small lander, Armstrong and Buzz looked at each other silently. They had survived the most dangerous 13 seconds in human history. When the Eagle finally rested on the moon, Armstrong and Aldrin sat in silence. They were alive, but their mission was not finished. They still had to do something no human had ever done, step onto another world. Inside the tiny lander, everything felt unreal. The floor vibrated softly. The metal walls creaked from temperature change. Outside the window, the moon looked endless, a flat gray desert with no air, no life, and no sound. Buzz Aldrin whispered, "We're really here." Armstrong took a deep breath. For a moment, he thought of Earth, of his family, of the millions watching, of the long journey that brought him here. Then Mission Control said, "You are Geo for the first EVA." EVA means walking outside. Armstrong slowly opened the hatch. Cold darkness rushed in. He climbed down the ladder carefully, step by step. Each movement felt heavy, slow, dangerous. The narrator explains, this was not just a step from a ladder. It was humanity leaving its home for the first time. Medium white star, the words that echoed across generations. Finally, Armstrong put one foot on the moon's soft dust. The dust didn't blow. It didn't move like sand on Earth. It stayed still, like powder frozen in time. His boot sank a little, making the first human footprint on another world. Armstrong spoke calmly, but his voice carried the weight of the entire planet. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. The world stopped. People cried, cheered, hugged strangers. Even those who didn't believe in the mission believed now. Humans had done the impossible. Medium white star, the silent surface of the moon. Buzz Aldrin joined him soon after. He looked around and said, almost whispering, "Magnificent desolation." A perfect description, beautiful, but empty. The two astronauts planted the American flag. They placed scientific tools. They collected rocks older than all human history. They took pictures, knowing these images would become legends. They also left something important, a silver plate with their names and a message. We came in peace for all mankind. This was not a victory for one country. It was a victory for all humans. Medium white star, the journey home. After exploring, they returned to the Eagle and prepared to leave the moon's surface. When the engine ignited, the top half of the lander lifted, leaving behind the lower half, like a small monument on the surface forever. Collins, still alone in orbit, saw their module rise. Relief washed over him. He said, "You're looking good, Eagle." The three men reunited and began their journey home. Medium white star, the ending that changed humanity. When their capsule splashed into the ocean, the mission officially ended. But the truth was different. Humanity had changed. Forever. For the first time, humans realize something powerful. If we can reach the moon, we can reach anywhere. Humans are unstoppable.